I would say that because of Peter Kuzmic and Miroslav Wolf and Gordon Fee, I know that Peter Kuzmic said to me that Gordon Fee, as a first Pentecostal scholar, helped him more than everyone else, because he was loud, because he was wild at preaching, but he was scholarly and academic and very good in expository preaching. So they made a pathway for, let's say, a more theological, sound, expository, exegetical way of preaching and studying the Bible. So people would finally have a way how to combine spirituality and intellectualism. But you have to see that because of that, not many people like that. And not so also many people who were also leaders saw that that's the good way of doing things.
Folks, welcome to the Disciple Dilemma. I have the delight of being joined by two brothers in Christ who are a little bit younger than I am, but a delight in the race that they're running. And we're going to have some fun today listening to something which we struggle to talk about in the U.S. in evangelicalism, which is a tighter discipling relationship between two men, wingmen, one to another, running beside one another, running alongside one another. Even though their vocational days are not necessarily tightly aligned, we're going to listen to the stories of their spiritual lives being very tightly aligned. And they're doing it in a world where they are a significantly diminished minority compared to the population around them. We're going to Croatia, and we're going to have a conversation with two people, Marko Romanjik, sitting next to me right here, and Matej Sakec, who is also sitting digitally next to us in Osijek, Croatia. And Matej, we are so delighted you're with us today.
I'm very glad that I can be at this podcast. So thank you for inviting me.
It's a privilege to have you. And Marko, it's a delight to have you with us too.
Thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here and share something that the Lord has done in our lives.
I want to tell you, everybody, about the rap sheet. In America, we talk about the rap sheet, which is basically your criminal undertakings, a resume of your criminality. So I want to tell you a little bit about these two guys as we get ready to talk about them. They are what we would categorize today as borderline Gen Z millennials. So this is a terrific traffic pattern for us because we're looking at the centerpiece in American Christianity that is deserting Christianity at a rapid rate. Marko, sitting here with me, is a civil engineer, both an undergrad and master's degree in civil engineering. So he has technical background. Marko also has an MBA. He is a startup entrepreneur for a group called Going Places. We'll throw his sign up on there in a little while so you can see that emblem as it runs through. And we also can see that he's smeared his life with a little bit of theology as his time at the Biblical Institute in Zagreb has given him training in theology and philosophy, and he makes for a lovely conversation anytime you want to have a good wrestling match on things about Christ. So that's Marko's rap sheet. Do you want to have any rebuttal to what I've just said?
Thank you for flowers, sir.
Let me tell you about Matej. Matej Sakec is really a delight who is beholden to the beautiful Leona. Two daughters. Katya, how old is Katya, Matej?
4.
4. And the much newer Nadia. How old is Nadia now?
6 months.
6 months old.
Yeah.
New family.
Yes.
Matej is much more closely aligned in a spiritual sense with the development and training of believers in Croatia on a day-to-day basis. Now let's talk about Matej's credentials as well. Matej has undergraduate and graduate degrees in library sciences. Matej is now the graduate school librarian at the Evangelical Theological Seminary in Osijek, Croatia, along with being the publishing editor of the Croatian Evangelical Alliance. And finally, Matej is hard at work on his second master's degree through the Evangelical Theological Seminary. So in Matej, we've got a great resource to talk about the trends that he sees within the Protestant seminaries as well as in the culture of Croatia itself. So this will just be a great conversation that we've got today with Matej. With that said, I'm just going to kind of kick the mic over to you two, and I'd like for you two, since you're so tight, I don't even have to call the refereeing and umpiring on this. Tell me just a little bit so our American friends can catch up. What's it like being a Protestant in Croatia? It's just like being a Protestant in America, right?
Matej, can you start, since I got Americanized 5 weeks here, so you have a better taste of that, and I will fulfill if something is missing.
Yeah, well, in the context where I live, in Osijek, where we have one of the largest evangelical churches, and in the sense where I live and where I serve, I'm very much surrounded with evangelicals every day. So because I'm at an Evangelical Theological Seminary, and because I'm working next to the church, and I'm actually living in the building of the church, for me, being a Protestant is a very normal thing. But when you go into the society, when you go with friends who are not Protestants, with people, and when you meet people around who are not Protestants, who are probably Catholics or atheists or agnostics, very much you would have to explain every time who you are. That you are a Protestant, that's a wing of Christianity established 500 years ago, and you have to tell all the differences. But actually, it's a good pathway to talking them not just about the religion, but actually about your path to becoming a Protestant. So you can share a gospel with them, and that way of explaining that you are a Protestant is a very good way to actually share a gospel with them. So being a Protestant is being very, very alone, actually, in Croatia, in large majority, very, very large. So, but it's actually very good, because even though it's tough, it humbles you. It makes you more depend on God and on His timing, and actually it makes you a very patient person, a man, because you have to endure a lot, not only in society but actually in the whole country. You have to prove your identity, kind of. Yeah.
In Croatia, the similarity of what you said is with the Roman Catholic Church. So, well, actually, there is 80% of Roman Catholics, and we Protestants are less than 0.5%. So
it's 1 out of every 200 is a Protestant.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And when the situation is like that, you don't play your Christianity. You don't go by tradition in the church in most cases. So you know why you are going to Evangelical or Protestant church. Yeah.
10 years ago, I just started my Christian life. And I think that back then we were like, what, 10,000, I think. And maybe now we are increasing. So what I saw is actually that Protestants are being stable. In the villages and in small places, they're going down, but in the cities, they're going up.
Folks, you're listening to Marko, Romanjik, and Matej Sakec, who are Croatians, talking about disciples in a land where they're in the minority. The significant minority is Protestant believers in Christ. Let me ask this question. You're painting a picture for me of people who are Protestants today are so because they're intentionally Protestants. It's a very definitive choice. Am I hearing that right?
Because we are a small community, we are more connected, I would say. And maybe it's also a cultural thing. be more open at some sense, talk with people. Church there has its own problems also, like church here. And Matej, who is a deacon in a church and serving much more longer than maybe at that position than I do, and he's also preaching very often, and there can say a few words. How about it?
There was kind of some sense of revival, prayer meetings that would gather persons, that would gather a lot of people, and many people would be baptized, and maybe people would be born again. But because they didn't have, let's say, proper biblical studies, and because the leaders were lay people, really, they didn't have theological education. They only had few books in maybe German language or Serbian, or some old books in Croatian. They raised a generation of anti-intellectualism. So, but still you have a spiritual people, but they are anti-intellect. And the problem actually that I see here is that people don't see the value of theology in the church, of theology in discipleship, and of knowledge of the Bible. You can call it maybe different names, and maybe that would be more approachable way. But when you talk in the terms of theology, and when you talk in the terms of more specific names of the things, they would probably say, "Oh, don't make philosophy out of God," and similar things.
Yeah.
So you see, I don't know if I was structural, but so there's a problem that everybody has. It's a problem with their spiritual life, every day fighting the sin. But because of where we are here, we have a different problem. We have a problem of not knowing what is the church, who is God, what's the Trinity. There's more. There was a way, especially in our context of evangelical Pentecostal church, where preachers would come, and thank God for them. They would help people walk their Christian life very, very straight and very, very good. But they would open the Bible and they would just start to preach. They would not prepare for the sermons. Or they would prepare, but it was not a proper preparation because no one showed them how to do it. I would say that because of Peter Kuzmich and Miroslav Wolf and Gordon Fee, I know that Peter Kuzmich said to me that Gordon Fee, as a first Pentecostal scholar, helped him more than everyone else because he was loud, because he was wild at preaching, but he was scholarly and academic and very good in expository preaching. So they made a pathway for, let's say, a more theological, sound, expository, exegetical way of preaching and studying the Bible. So people would finally have a way how to combine spirituality and intellectualism. But you have to see that because of that, not many people like that. And not so also many people who were also leaders saw that that's the good way of doing things.
This idea of anti-intellectualism, then, you would say, if I understood you correctly, is more prominent in the older generations of Protestants there, perhaps 50 and up, and the intellectual thinking of mentors like Gordon, Miroslav, and Peter have begun to emerge in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s. Am I hearing that correctly?
What I see now is that young people, because of the wrong use of internet, are becoming more and more anti-intellectual. And because they don't know how to grasp information, how to prove it, or how to get the information that there is right, are going in the same way. Yeah. It's a very sad thing. And I see many evangelicals having problem of anti-intellectualism. So we don't only have a fight that is from outside. And what I mean by that is that how to prove our identity in our country. But it's actually how to build a proper biblical identity amongst ourselves. Because anti-intellectualism is not the way. Intellectualism is not the way. But the balance of spirituality and the openness to intellectualism and the proper way of studying the Bible is the only way how we can build our identity and proper biblical life.
Yeah, and that's true what Matej said, and this is also very visible when you try to talk one-on-one now or in small groups with the people and try to open yourself and talk about some life issue problems and this problem of anti-intellectualism or not understanding the importance of sound theological knowledge, doctrine, what gospel is, who God is, affects everyday life, and then people expect short-term instant solutions. So give me this, give me the pill, as you like to say. Give me the coffee pill. I don't want to go the whole process of preparing the coffee. Just give me the pill, give me instant. You can't, you must, you have to, and that might be a problem in raising awareness how we should live our Christian lives in a Christian community.
Wow, this is interesting because you're really constructing an idea of evacuating knowledge, not simply I don't have an interest in, but actually telling people step away from those books. Don't be reading, don't be thinking. Just take the headlines you're getting in the pulpit and perhaps in your community and be done with it. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and actually this leads in some sense to the same problem you have here, and why this disciple dilemma was written. The shallow understanding who God is, the shallow understanding of how we should live as a Christians in a community, why I'm here, how this relates to your life, how my life relates to Matej's life, and you expect just a headline from the pastor, do this, don't do it like that, and after a while I will show up, leave me alone.
Folks, thanks for listening today to the Disciple Dilemma. We hope that you'll take a look at us on the social media traffic sites that we're on. They're not hard to find. Look up the Disciple Dilemma on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Rumbly. The RSS feeds, we're out there in all those places. The message that we're trying to get across to the American evangelical is that discipleship's been hacked. We're living in an environment that has disrupted biblical discipleship as Christ intended it, and we hope to start conversations. We believe pastors do great work. We think churches are fantastic things, but we can't put loads on pastors and churches that the Bible never intended disciples to put on those. It's up to us to break the hack in discipleship. So please take a look at these social media sites, join the conversation, help us talk about the race that Christ has called all of us to run. And always, folks, thank you very much for listening.